little bit late. I'm amazed at the turnout. Thank you all for coming out. So I just want to tell you a little bit about tonight and what our goals are. Tonight is the first of 4 village visioning. What it is we're trying to get community input to tell us what you would like to see in your village, what you would like to see disappear from your village, and you'll see on the whiteboards that there's questions on each board. So what do you want to create in the community? What do you want to change in the community? And what do you want to preserve in the community? So tonight, it really is just a very relaxed question answer. Don't be afraid to just come up with ideas. We'll write them down. But I do have some guests here tonight that I would like to introduce. I have Patrick McMahon, who is from Connecticut Main Street, who would like to speak a little bit tonight. Mark Jewell is here, and he's going to talk about the Moosup Valley Trail, right over by the bridge in Moosup. And I'd like to thank Chris Bickler and Lydia Michaela and the students for spending time with us. We did a field trip and we went through the villages. They took some pictures for us, so you'll see the pictures of different areas in downtown Moosup. So if you, Lydia, if you want to start, just so I can thank the students who did this. So the students that went on the field trip with us is Haley Cassidy, George Demers, and Olivia LaGranger. So they are all graphic artist students, and each of them live in one of the villages. So it was really interesting to have them with us and taking pictures. And they actually gave us ideas what they thought would be nice to have in the village, which again, it's the younger generation that we really want to be able to keep here, you know, to go away to college, but to come back and start a business or work here. So we appreciate all the work that the students did.
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but who is us? Who are you?
Oh, so I just sit here for
Who's in charge of
granted. Okay.
this?
So I'm sorry, I'm Kathy Tendrich, I'm the first selectman in Plainfield. And this has been a dream of mine even before I became first selectman, is to be able to make a difference in our communities. I've lived in town for over 40 years. My students grew up here. I mean, my daughters grew up here. They were students in our school system here. So it's important for me to be able to give back to the community. And I've listened to a lot of concerns, a lot of ideas. So this is really making the dream come true for me. So tonight, let's just put it all out there. It's a relaxed setting. Don't be afraid to say what you need to say, what you want to see going out of your community, or what you want to see here, okay? So I think first what I'm going to do is have Patrick McMahon come up from Connecticut Main Street. Patrick had come and spent a day with us going around to all the different villages, and I'll let him explain what he does, but he really loved all of our villages. So Patrick, thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, Mary Ann, for the invitation. So again, I'm Patrick McMahon. I'm the CEO of the Connecticut Main Street Center. We are a statewide nonprofit organization with a mission to drive investment to downtowns, main streets, commercial, mixed-use commercial districts, and we work with communities large and small. So it may be a suburban downtown that we're working on, or we're also in communities where we've got these villages, like Moosup, like Plainfield Center. All of those areas are critically important to each of the communities. Why is it that the downtowns are so important to the communities? What are some ideas that you have?
Economic center.
Economic center, right. So there's the jobs, the small businesses. What else?
Family hub, to bring children to like a youth center, a place where they can meet, do things culturally, have fun, and occupy their time in a positive way.
Right, so a community gathering
Oh,
place.
God, yes,
Absolutely. And
What makes it home?
it makes it home, right?
It's what you want to come back to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are many homes within these village areas that are close by to the small businesses and the community parks, et cetera. What else? It's actually an economic driver. It's not just the small businesses that jobs that are created, but if you look at a per acre basis on tax generation in the community, there's more tax generated per acre in a denser village center than in traditional suburban retail settings. So having that denser development in villages is really critical. What else? A lot of times these downtowns are the walkable, bikeable areas, right? So they actually get you out of the house so that you're exploring your environments. You know, in today's age, I'm just as guilty as everybody, how much time we devote to our screens, whether it's our phones or our televisions. Our village centers, our town centers, that's the opportunity for us to connect as human beings. And it's an innate need for all of us to have those connections, right? When you're out in nature, when you're walking around, when you're doing the trail that's out here, don't you feel happier? Who here feels happier when they're out in the sun and walking around? Okay, so that's an issue we need to, okay. I heard an issue coming up with the trails. It could be something that could be addressed.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
There is a mill around the other side of Moosup that's half down, half up, or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acreage there, and I understand it's probably brought into some kind of snafu that's political. But why isn't there some sort of a park where families can come together, old, young, teenagers, and enjoy themselves? There's nothing up here.
Yeah, well, I will tell you a couple things. I'll point to a couple
Yeah.
things. When you say a park, you actually have green space downtown.
No.
There's a slice of green.
No, not in Moosup.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised that area of green, if you shut down a street for a festival, you add the green, you add the street that's closed, you could easily hold events right down in the center of the village, okay? Now, to your second point about the mills, okay? Mills obviously were huge for this community and many communities throughout the state because of our industrial heritage, being on these different rivers with the energy that was generated. That's why these mills were created, and that's why you have these villages. You had the mill first, and the villages were created around them. Now, a lot of these mill structures do have some contamination. They're called brownfields, and they can be very, very challenging. But I can tell you that your first selectman and your planner are on top of it, totally. They are reaching out to every opportunity at the federal and state level. They're meeting up with officials. They're saying, Plainfield, we have these mills, we want to see them utilized, or, it's all a planning effort. You got to first determine what the extent of the contamination is. There has to be a plan for how do you remediate that. Then it's really the property owner also has to decide how are they going to dispose it and what's the plan for it. From the town's perspective, the things that you have to look at is what's it zoned for? What's the underlying zoning? How can you work with future, or the current or future owners to come up with a use that does fit what you're hoping to achieve?
Well, why I'm saying that, because there was a mill down in Griswold that burned down. Maybe it was arson, who the heck knows what it was, several years ago. And what they did, they made a beautiful sit-down park with water running through it. It added to everybody that lived around that area, brought all the properties up, and all homeowners were ecstatic on it, but it aesthetically looks fabulous. Coming into town looking at that looks like a bombed out area I'm living in. I don't see that it's so fabulous. I mean, I came up here because of family, but I came from areas in Connecticut that had a lot of things that were for children and for families, and I'm not seeing anything up here, really. I'm not.
Okay, so that would be certainly another thing, is you want to see a little bit for families and children. again, these brownfields are quite complex, okay?
Yeah.
And really what is really important is that you have a first selectman, because local leadership is absolutely critical when it comes to any of these mill projects. Because it's the local leader, it's your community, okay? You know, because you're gonna need state resources, you need federal resources, and it's really, it comes down to the communities that ask are the ones that people respond to, that the officials respond to. So I can assure you that that is happening. Is it gonna be something turned over overnight? No, it's gonna take a little bit of time before you see something with some of the mills that are in town here. But the other thing that I think is really critical that you mentioned, any community that has a river flowing through it, wherever there's water, people are drawn to water. So you always see that with being around lakes, on the shore. Rivers are the same depending on how it's structured. If you can find ways to tap in and have more public access to different parts of the waterways in town, to create those trail systems so that people can get out there and photograph and enjoy a bike ride or a stroll with their family, it is really I think such a calling card. And again, one of the other things about why the downtowns are important and the villages is from the outside world.
Yeah.
Okay? The outside world, if someone's looking to potentially invest in Plainfield, whether that's to purchase a home or to start a business, one of the first things they're going to be looking at are the villages. Okay?
School system.
And with certainly the school system, but always the downtown and the villages are something that people relate to, and they want to know that it feels like a part of that, okay? So I highly encourage, from a Connecticut Main Street perspective, I just want to throw out a couple more points because I know you want to get to the rest of the agenda, is the town can only do so much as the municipality, okay? It's the job of the town to be the coordinator, to be the facilitator. But it's up to all of you in this room. Can each of you make a personal commitment to do something for your community? Don't rely on it, it's the town has to do that. The town needs to clean that up. The town needs to do this. The town needs to do that. It just isn't possible. Okay, it's not possible. The town is you. That's what it is. The town is the residents.
Well, excuse me, one issue about that is the town, the biggest problem with the blight is not owned by individuals. It's owned by corporations or companies. I mean, like you got Command right there, you got the old Keystone Cleaners building right here.
Yeah.
You've got the old Squash Hangout in downtown Moosup. Those aren't owned by individuals. There's no face. Those are corporations or whatever.
Right. Certainly in that sort of situation, yes, there is going to be a role for the town. But when it comes to like these village center areas that you have, it's the residents and business owners. If you worked together and created a village neighborhood
But
association.
those businesses are all gone. The people who own them either retired or died or whatever like that.
Okay, so that is something that needs to be on this list, okay? So it's not just some place to live, but you want to make it so that it's an attractive environment to start a small business. You want to make sure that you're working with the local property owners, with their buildings, to make sure that they're ready for a small business to move in. And this stuff doesn't just happen. So there's got to be, for instance, in this village, there's got to be a group that gets together on a regular basis, interface with the town, but you're working together to have events downtown, to draw people, to make it so that it feels more inviting to the community, and they'll come down. And if they come down, they'll spend money. If they spend money, more business will. It's all a cycle. It's all a cycle. And there are some programs out there. There's the Small Business Development Center. There's SBA loans. that the town can help small businesses get connected to. They won't do the work, but they can connect them to those resources. They're out there. But having that small group of people that are meeting on a regular basis and reaching out, and in this day and age, again, with our handheld devices, you can market Moosup like that. I took a photo coming in of the church in the sunset. It was glowing. It's a beautiful shot. And then there's a set of historic buildings that in the sunlight were absolutely wonderful. It's a walkable downtown. I think some of the connections could be improved. You can improve some of the crosswalks and that type of thing. There's a couple roads that are really wide and there's no traffic on it. It connects to the both one-way streets. There's this one road that's wide. And it's like unutilized space for what? Put in some on-street parking.
Excuse me. I live on between River Street and Princeton Oaks Road. The Griswold Rubber mill is there. It's a productive mill. But you've got 18-wheeler tractor trailers coming out on these little tiny narrow roads. And I don't know how that's going to interfere with people trying to put their businesses in and walking around. And as I said, they have 6 bays. And these tractor trailers, sometimes they go down the wrong way and everybody's screaming. I've done it myself, not gone down there, but actually yelled at a trucker, I'm going to kill somebody because the roads are too narrow. And then you're going to try to have little walkways for people to go from store to store. Something, I mean, I don't know what just,
So
how to remedy
remember,
that. But
you definitely have to work with the business owners and work with the truckers to make sure they're routing
You
the
can
right
reroute,
directions.
you can reroute those trucks
to where?
out the other way.
What other way?
You can go down High Street,
Go down which street?
down High Street.
High
You
Street
could
to
I mean, I'm just
Square?
saying you can just
Those
reroute them.
roads are very,
Down
very
down
narrow.
to the Savings Institute.
In these town center village areas, if you can reduce the speed of traffic, the biggest, one of the biggest goals is you want to make it feel safe for the pedestrian. And in your design work, you want to make sure that as many of the buildings are up closer to the street, that the parking is in the rear. Mary Ann's very knowledgeable about all of those elements of design that make a place more livable and more pedestrian friendly. And if you take those steps, you end up attracting more people to these villages. So with that, we are a resource. I'm thrilled that the First Selectman and Mary Ann invited us out tonight. I can't wait to see some of the photos. You've got some just incredible assets. And I think that the purpose of this right here is really just to show you that working on any one topic isn't going to get you where you want to get to. You need to be working on all of these things simultaneously. And because of that, you need people that are working together. That committee that's going to focus on Moosup is really going to make things really pop if you work with the town staff and the First Selectman to make it happen. So, thank you.
So Mark Jr. is here, and he's going to talk about the Moosup Valley Trail. So Mark, if you want to come up and just talk a little bit about the trail, and I know you've been out and we've met before to discuss it, so if you'd like to share some of that.
Sure, I don't want to take up a lot of time on the agenda. My name is Mark Jewell with VHB. Did anybody attend the January 24th public informational meeting on the trail? The Moosup Trail, a couple folks, good. So just so people know, the trail project has gotten up to 30% design, with the state called 30% design. Then they held a public informational meeting at Town Hall, and that was January 24th. 30 days of public comment. Public comment period closed at the end of February, and the state is prepared to start to move towards 60% design. So there's still a lot of work to do, permitting and things like that, but it's about a $2.5 million construction job to resurface about 6 miles of the Moosup Trail, starting right here at the bridge of River Street, basically, to the Rhode Island line. And for those who don't know, Rhode Island is working on their section right now. There's contractors out there as we speak, working on their side. So that's just a quick summary, an update on the trail project. But really, I was here just to listen. With, you know, these visioning exercises are always fabulous. I'm curious what the vision is for the trail going towards Killingly through the village center. So I'm interested to hear what people have to say about that.
Thank you, Mark. So I also have Steve Martin and Nicole here from the Economic Development Committee. Steve, did you want to talk about anything that you're working on the committee, or? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't want to leave you out either.
We are a relatively newly formed committee, so I think this type of environment is great. It allows us to understand what the community is looking for, and that we can support the community with economic development, business. We can build our resources as a town to allow business to come in. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Okay. So really what we're gonna do is just open up the floor, and again, help me with some answers to these questions. What your vision is, what you would like to see here, what you think is, needs to be changed. Does anybody have any ideas, any of these? Like, what is in your community, in the community that you would like to preserve? Mary Ann?
Can I just touch on the Keystone Cleaners?
Yes,
site for a
please.
minute? The fire district is looking to purchase that property. They have contracted with CME Associates to do an environmental site assessment over there, because being a dry cleaner, it is considered by DEEP to be an establishment. So CME will be taking care of the environmental site assessment there. And the fire district is also working with DEEP, because one of the requirements is that they enter into a brownfield program prior to taking ownership of the property. So they're working with DEP on that as well.
Thank you.
So, does anybody want to start? I don't.
So, for preserving the community, my name is Bill Kuchar, by the way. I own a bunch of apartment buildings in town here, and actually just purchased the Marshall building right next to where Big Miracle was. So for me as an investor in town, I've been doing this for 6-7 years. So I'm basically purchasing buildings that need work, fixing them up, getting great tenants in them. So as far as the town, I think we need to help to preserve some of these older buildings like mine. For example, the top floor has, there's actually an old dance hall upstairs, which is really cool. Yeah. So there's like a lot of old windows that are boarded up. So I know in Putnam, they've actually been able to provide like historical grants to kind of fix up old buildings. You know, I'm not looking to take a bunch of money from the town, but to help with some of the aesthetics. And with buildings like that right in downtown, it's kind of the first thing you see that really attracts your eye. And especially in putting in, you know, the rail trail extension,
Right.
it kind of all plays together. So yeah, I just think caring for the old buildings and.
Thank you, Bill. Rocky?
So, Bill, to dovetail on what you just said, can somebody tell me about the one thing that happens in Moosup once a year in the middle of August that brings people from all over to Moosup? That's one thing, that's in August, and then in the month of September, what's the next thing that happens in Moosup that people from all over?
Yard sale. Oh, yeah.
Yard sale. So there's an idea. Now I'm going to throw a model, and it's the same one that Bill just mentioned, Putnam. So when you're driving to Putnam, what do you see in downtown Putnam? What's really the one thing that jumps out at you? Antiques, right? So I'm not suggesting that Moosup become the antique capital, because we got a pretty good antique business going up in Putnam right now. But I can tell you, there's a lot of people that are very much into yard sale items and consignment in the area. So think for a moment about all the empty space that's potential. When I say empty space, that doesn't necessarily have to be established retail space, although Bill's probably got some optimistic thoughts of that. But we go on vacation to places like Algonquin, and they're just houses that are shops. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to look like a retail place. But consignment places, given the mentality of people in the area that we all acquire more stuff through the course of the year than we need, and we got to part with it at some point. But I just think that more consignments would be a way to not make me exceed my 4 limits a year at the transfer station, Kathy. But, so, I think that there's something that is like a little business idea that everybody can be part of, you know?
7?
Oh, thank you, Kathy. I could use those extra 3. So, you know, that's just, Putnam is a model to me of something that seems like it has worked. Moosup's got something that's happening right now. People from all over go to this yard sale. I mean, it's amazing how packed this town is. Once a year, it's once a year, but if it was in retail shops, it might be more often than that.
Well, we're
Then
getting
you-
a lot of
Go ahead.
negative things on that, though.
Well, I'm sure there, but if they were in shops, it wouldn't be so negative, would it?
But then you'll never bring them on to shops.
Well, I mean, you know, like, because we have a problem, we participate in this yard sale, and then the things that don't sell, we're like, geez, what are we gonna do with all this stuff?
Leave it out in the street, it'll disappear.
Beth Anderson, hi. Just some of my thoughts too is, my family's been in town for generations. And I know, like, kind of on the Putnam thing, my family, my personal family, we go up to Putnam for the events. So we go, there's First Fridays, there's the Riverwalk, there's the fire lighting, there's things to do that are child friendly. I have 3 children, 10, 6, and 8 months. Light parades, things like that. So for me, it's seeing some of those events come back. We have that little green right there in town, that gets utilized for the parade, but why not do stuff like a vendor fair in the summer, or get one of those inflatable projector screens like the Moosup Elementary School has, and do a family movie night every, Friday night in the summer. Because then
The green area you're talking about, behind that building.
it's right across from Walgreens, between Walgreens and Cumberland Farms, like.
Yeah, but the
and-
corner store you
That
can-
little.
Right there, right there.
Empty lot, yeah.
Across from the sports center.
I would like to see a better place than that, because there's no parking and it's very busy traffic. That's not an ideal place, I wouldn't think.
Well, and
for
again,
that.
it depends on looking forward for ideas, like, I'm not saying it is ideal, I mean, we're looking for the villages, that means people could probably walk there.
Because a lot of people, billions of people walk in the town. They walk all the time, and it being a village event, there's plenty of parking down near the barber shop.
No, not really so
Or the
much.
old
If
Bank
you've
of
got
America.
people
Yeah,
in
the old Bank of-
Walk Road
The
and all
old
that,
Bank of
if you wanna
America,
go
there
down there.
could be parking in there. There's a lot of places you work. The old Bank of America down near the barber shop.
The other piece too is, a lot of these different places close down roads for events like this. Like Putnam, First Fridays, their main road is closed, so.
But there's ways around.
There's a way around,
that.
but there's also ways around this. There's plenty of side roads to go all the way around, so there are options for that. And I mean, in all honesty, you could close Prospect Street from the center of town up a couple blocks, and then you still have 3 side streets that you could reconnect traffic to. So, I mean, it's just, these are ideas of things we have already that could just be utilized and made better while we're working on better.
Then you're working on it, okay.
And
So if
also-
we're working on a better place,
And
because I
also
think.
on the Moosup, the yard sale, okay? That is a lot of people that come to town. The same with the VJ Day. I mean, it's a huge crowd that
And-
comes around, and there's parking.
But, well, no, what the gentleman said, one of the complaints is, and I've heard it from other people that come, they don't come anymore because there's no parking.
And they get tickets.
Yes,
Then
so
I
it
think we
is,
need to
that
make
is
it-
a
that-
problem,
Well, I
it's
think that we
not.
need to make it
Lots of
better.
people will
Yeah.
come to the yard sale
Yeah.
because they got
Because
tickets.
they got tickets. and
Tons
there's
of
no
people got
parking.
tickets.
I think we need to do a better way of letting people where the parking spots are.
Right, I think that more directions
Yes.
is good.
More
And I
directions.
can go with, to get people in, to start in the
Start
center.
somewhere with something.
But I
now.
think our ultimate goal should be to find a better venue that's not, because I don't mean to be negative, if there's people with businesses there, it's not the most attractive little piece of land. Well, if we're gonna change the other stuff too, then yeah.
I mean, right now, probably not, but that's something we're here to change.
It's
Right.
brainstorming right now.
Right. Oh, no, I can see getting it in, but.
Connie?
Okay, well, thank you. Connie Hatfield, I've been here probably longer than most of you people except for.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not the oldest, I'm the second oldest. You know, we're talking about people walking downtown and people going. Yes, we did that years ago. Years ago, we had Bellavitz where you stopped for coffee. We had the corner store where you stopped and you had, teachers would go after school. Where did we meet? At one of these local shops for coffee. That's what we did. We have nothing here to do that. We have lots of area, but nothing.
So coffee shops,
Well,
little shops.
thing that people can go and meet, you know, when you have a bad day, you wanna go out and talk to somebody else. You got a place to go for coffee, no?
Talking to people again.
We don't have a coffee shop down there.
We have nothing, nothing.
There's Dunkin'. You can try coffee. There's only 5 seats there.
My name is Nicole Sweeney. I'm a resident and here for the Economic Development Commission. I'm also a member of the Plainfield Rotary. So something that I thought of initially from our first speaker, as well as what you just said about the events like the ones in Putnam, those are put on by groups and organizations within town. So I think something important to note is, you know, we're in a town of however many residents, I don't know, 15,000 or something, yeah. Our Plainfield Rotary Club has about 16 members. I think that is a huge factor in why there are not more activities in our town. The 16 of us can only do so much as far as events like that. We do put on several very successful events that provide to the community. I think things like that are important if we want more events like they have in Putnam. So I really, you know, implore everyone to seek out groups that they can become a part of to help put those activities on, because that's how they get done. They're not done by the town itself. They're done by groups. So we'd be happy to have members. We would love to put on events like that. There's actually like 5 or 6 of us here tonight. So I'm speaking for all of you, but we'd be happy to start those things if we had more membership. So if anyone would like more
Considered a full
information.
Rotary, basically.
I'm sorry?
What is considered a full Rotary, basically, in a town our size?
I'm not sure what that
At
number
times,
would
we
be.
had up to 35 and 40
That's why I was
members.
curious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
Putnam's
Yeah.
got 55
That's
or
why I was
60
curious, just
members.
what other people have, what compared to,
Yeah.
so I was just in more
Larger,
comparison.
larger
We
than.
had
Comparison to
lots
other
of-
towns.
Yeah.
I know you have your hands up, and then I think there are a couple other people too.
Just bringing in, you know, we talked about bringing stuff into the village center, trying to get the center going. So, yes, where there are problems, maybe with parking and things like that, but I think you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And since we do have the VJ Day Parade, and where people do find a place to park, and it brings a lot of people to town, yes, do we want to in the future try to alleviate and have all the parking areas? Sure. But you really want to start with the downtown, the center of the town, and then it will eventually just branch out. That's how Putnam did it. They did it. The only other proviso that we have here in this town is not only do you have the Moosup Village, but you have the Plainfield Village, the Warrigan Village, and the Central Village Village.
And that's what
And
makes Plainfield unique.
So when you're comparing it to Putnam, Putnam has just one center, except for their little commercial center up where, up off of 44 there. But pretty much, they have one center they can concentrate on, whereas we have 4. So we have to start somewhere, so each village has to kind of start to do what they need to do. I also love the trail, but I will give a little proviso about the trail. Whatever work is done on the trail, hopefully, that there is somebody to watch over it and protect it. Because as an example, a number of years ago, my son, for his Eagle Scout project, this was quite a few years ago, got permission to, at the head where the bridge was, is to, we dressed it up, we put a flagpole there, we put bushes in there, we dressed it all up, we improved, put flower boxes from the flower, flower garden place and club, and then also did some fencing. And it came out beautiful. The flower boxes on the trestle, on the bridge, lasted one day. Because some kids, we don't know who, somebody went and just threw everything into the river. So if you want to preserve and you want to have these things, with the trail and things like that, you need to have them protected. And that's the same thing with
if you decide to do something else with the green space in the village, in the center of town, or set something up, you need to have it protected. Because otherwise, it's just gonna look like,
Also maintain too, because some people are rude enough to throw their garbage as they're walking.
but there again, maintaining, I think that's where you can get your clubs and your community to help maintain some of that stuff.
I'll just put my camera on it for you. I'll just put my camera on it for you.
Well, I thought about that.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that the town, because obviously a police officer costs a lot of money, sometimes it might be cheaper to have cameras set up
I
in
have a
town.
brand new camera system. We just put it in. Let me know. I'll put a camera on it when we get to do something. It'll be monitored 24 hours.
I know somebody had their hand up back there before.
I just think Prospect Street needs, it's so unappealing. And I too have lived here forever. And I just think it'd be great if we could notify the property owners of things that might be available to them to clean up their property. I mean, it's really, really sad.
Yeah.
And it's just so uninviting. I don't know if there is anything out there.
Mary Ann, maybe you could speak a little bit about that?
Are there any grants out there? Have we looked into that?
We have not looked into that, and I have not been made aware, because I normally get updates on available grants that I don't know. I can look into that, though.
Well, I have a question. Isn't the Department of the Interior, probably Hartford, don't they have grants and stuff like for historic houses? Because there's a lot of houses in this town that are pretty darn old.
They do. The State
And then we
Historic
can have-
Preservation
and we
Office
can do-
has
right, and what the-
historic preservation grants
Right, and
for
what the-
homeowners.
Right, and what the owner can do, they can open up their home. This is cool, this is the tax write-off too. You can open up your home so many hours of the week and be like a walking tour for people to come in. So it is quite interesting.
Yeah,
because
but that's
some
not a
people have-
requirement. That's not a requirement. but
No, it's
that's-
not, but it's
that
not a
it's-
bad idea.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a draw.
Yeah.
That would be a draw.
Is there something in the works for getting rid of some of the blighted buildings in town? Like the old Hangout and a couple other, I know you mentioned the one right here, the fire district, Keystone Cleaners. But there's a couple of them that have been burnt out for forever.
Right.
Things like that. I mean, is there anything in the process of trying to at least get them taken down? First of all, they're a hazard, safety hazard, but just to get them down.
So we don't have a blight ordinance.
Well, I know.
We did try to get a blight ordinance quite a few years ago, and it did not pass. We have talked about trying to do another one, and maybe not so strict, maybe certain guidelines that we could get passed. So we are
on Main
talking
Street or
about.
something, the house has to be kept differently than people out in the country. No, seriously though, because if you want to bring a Main Street back, you can't have houses filled with couches and chairs sitting on the front porch that everybody's gonna drive past in and out of your town.
I mean, it's one way in town, one way out, basically.
Yeah, so we have discussed that.
Raise it to 10.
What?
Raise it to 10 trips to the dump. 10 trips.
How much stuff do you have? It would be nice if we could get police presence on bicycles, walking, or whatever, because the kids are out there, the ones that are causing the trouble mainly. And if we could get them to go to the Lions Park with the kids, just go meet with them, shoot some hoops with them, take their bikes through the neighborhoods. The kids are out there walking, stop, talk to them, get to know them, just let them know that they're there, and they're watching them.
And I will say that,
Out of their cars.
I walked a lot, and the police would stop at the Lions Park. I've seen them bring ice cream to kids.
Officer
So they
used to
do-
ride around on his bike.
Yep, they
He used to
do
ride around the
try
whole
to
town on his
interact
bike.
with the kids.
He used to, up a couple
watch
of years
the
ago.
kids.
He got old.
I mean, it would be nice, I mean, I don't see it, but it would be nice to, I mean, it's nice to hear that, but it would be nice to see them on bikes and that just during the summer times and just driving
They
around
have
and.
been. I don't know what happened to that program, but up until about maybe 4 years ago, Officer could do all summer long, used to ride his bike all over Moosup.
And is police?
In the basketball court, I've seen them out on the basketball court before with the
They
kids.
did a
So they
wonderful,
do- they
it's
do
wonderful
try.
for the kids.
So let's see, do you want to add more? Police.
More on a personal level. Not in a car. Yeah, they want to see that. Just stick them on like this.
First of all, thank you for having this tonight. My question would be, is there any public access points for the river? For either fishing or for rafting in the summer, in the springtime when the water level's higher, maybe tubing in the summertime? Because we do have, we have a great river that has water flowing year round, and that is available access. That's the reason Moosup was built, was because of that river.
And I do believe there are access points. I know that we have talked about doing like a canoe where you could bring your canoes in. So with this whole trail and the whole project, all of that we'll be looking at. I'll go over here.
So Doug Tabor, I own Distinctive Touch Salon here in Moosup, which is the old Corrosion Hardware.
Yeah.
And my wife and I just bought the old laundromat over on Aldridge. And to go to one of your questions there, Kathy, about what do you want to preserve, I can tell you as a salon owner and business owner, all I hear about all the time is the history of this town. I can't tell you how many people come into that building and tell me, oh, Mike Garoshin this, Mike Garoshin that, I could find this, I could find that. To this day, people still come in there from New Hampshire, Texas, all over the country, people have been in that building. And there really is a lot of history to Moosup when you really look at it. So somehow you just gotta bring a lot, when we open the laundromat, we're gonna put a lot of old photos up and stuff like that, because it intrigues people. They love seeing the old building. So somehow preserving some of those smaller shops that we had back in the day.
75 of them in Moosup.
Kathy, I'd like to let everybody know, we do have a history room adjacent to the senior center, and we have tons of things there. And if you have out-of-state visitors, we're not only open Friday through the 4, but by appointment. My phone number is readily available. Town clerk's got permission to give it out. So if you run into people like that, we're more than happy to help share information with them. Thanks.
I know I saw somebody else's hand.
I just want to mention that I met the first selectman of Canterbury, Chris Lipke, I think his name.
Yeah.
And I met him because we were both attending the same meeting in Weathersfield at the Daniel Webb House, which was the meeting place of Washington and Rochambeau. And one of the things that's special about Plainfield in general is that over 8,000 troops marched about 15 miles a day right up Route 14 through Plainfield from, these are French troops primarily, from Newport all the way to Yorktown, Virginia, so that we wouldn't be an English colony anymore. And so Plainfield's got enormous history, and it's that first selectman's mission to try to get more tourism related to the fact that this is a very historic route. So I had the privilege of being named as the delegate, one of the delegates from Connecticut to the W3R. So W3R means Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. Excuse me, and they plan on remarking the trail, which is all of the, signage that you see, and many of it was paid for by Daughters of American Revolution, and the state did chip in at some, but there's gonna be some new remarking of the route. So, yeah, we live in a very historic area, and many of the homes along the way are, not there anymore, but many of them are still in great shape. So, we should definitely emphasize the fact that we do live in a very, very prominently historic town.
And to get back to the selectmen in Canterbury, I had a luncheon with Susan Beisowitz. She came out with the area selectmen and stuff, and that was one of the things that Chris talked about. And when Sue left, she actually called Chris and said, okay, what is it that you need? Because she had not heard of it before. So they had a good connection, so.
They talk about revitalizing Putnam, which they have. They have that Rotary Park, which is something, if we had something of that size, they have wonderful events. We could do the same thing. Once in a while, I hear we have bands down at, in Plainfield. But you know, if they did more activities in the summertime, and another place that you have, nobody's mentioned, right up the road called Moosup, which was a beautiful, beautiful area. If you're there and you want to eat or drink, you better drink the water in the Moosup, because there's no place. Before you had all these things, you know, there was a restaurant, I know, I worked there.
Ice cream.
You know, and I lived there after the fire.
Activity, like some towns, like Putnam, on the fireworks display.
Yes.
If you had a fireworks display somewhere near the pond or something like that, I mean, people could see it for.
Well, we did do fireworks.
There's a tercentenary.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, we did
do
it at Big
fireworks,
Y.
and I know that the Plainfield Business Association is trying to work this year to take it over. We had done it for a year or two, and then the town took it over, but now I know PDA is trying to take it over.
Even a couple holiday decorations is
Thank
absolutely
you.
nothing in the
Yeah.
villages.
I
Nothing.
agree.
You go to Killingly, you go to Putnam, you go, they all have something. Yeah, we used to have.
You
holiday
can George
decorations.
Groffo.
Yeah, I know.
And he's the one that did it at New Betcha.
And, you know, the other thing, just mentioning is that historical, you know, history is like you said, there are a number of homes or buildings that are have historical. We made a list of those that people could say, oh, you know, this was done in, you know, 18-something, to try to attract people. So, and the other thing is maybe bringing in more people or more things that deal with the arts.
Yes.
That seems to bring people into your town. Obviously, you need to have a place to put them. Right, Bill?
No
Make space, there we go.
That marketing like,
Art studio.
if you put a plaque on the building when it was built,
We used to have, on some of the houses, used to have a little plaque that
They had a
said
Norwich.
circa, whatever,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know.
they even have that in Ohio.
Norristown has it. The other thing is, when Plainfield has their 300-year anniversary, they bus the kids from the schools around the town, told them the history of everything in the town. And I had just moved here, and my son went on that bus tour. He was in 4th grade. And to this day, he still talks about that bus tour, and I still wonder why they don't do it again. Why don't they walk these kids in groups around town, show them the history, give them some pride in their community, starting young?
I agree with you.
Because, I mean, he's 29, and he still talks about that tour. He learned a lot, and he teaches about a lot of people. I mean, he's into history anyway, and he was on here at his age, but he remembers almost, he still tells when we drive.
Just put on that little one, get rid of blight.
Oh, that's terrible.
Kathy, I think something that goes along with that one is loiterers. I know, like, in the downtown area, I'll be honest, there's places that I prefer not to go because of people standing outside of the doors, smoking. You have to walk through that to get it. It just, I don't know what the policy, you know, that's private or.
One of the other things too that comes to my mind, and it's just purely visual, is our sidewalks, our lighting, it's a hot mess. You know, if you do the Main Street here, where Bill's building is there, you can tell what shape those sidewalks were in at one point. They still have the amethyst glass in the cement, like in some places. You know, they've been hit out in some places, obviously, over the 8 years, but I mean, that's a huge piece of that whole walking, is it needs to look like it can be walked, as well as feel safe for
So one of
walking
the
where that
things
lighting piece comes
that we
in.
talked about with the high school students is after we get all these ideas, is we would like to have them do drawings for us, and that's one of the things we talked about is bringing back all the old lighting,
Yes.
in the park benches and the flower pots.
Especially the downtown area, to make it more attractive.
And just love those sidewalks, I mean, they are safety, I walk them every summer with our kids, like we do it, but
Yep.
it's a bumpy road, like, you know, it's not level, there's chunks missing, they don't, it's all mixed matched with different stuff, like, you know, that's one of those things when you think about Putnam or Danielson or places like that will revitalize their main street, everything just, it looks nice, like, it's just sidewalks are there, lighting.
It does. They've got like industrial age murals on the side of buildings, and I know Putnam does it too, so.
Yeah.
I mean, and the cost to do something like that, I mean, a few $100s.
And you
Right,
got
get
kids,
some kids from
you got kids from the high school
You
that
could
can do
probably have a
that.
high school contest
Yeah.
and have
Yeah.
some kids do that as a project.
And I'm sure there are pictures that they could use, it would really be, that's a great idea.
A dog park.
Just whatever you want.
I am
A
not,
dog park.
I am not, believe me, I'm a dog lover, but I'm one of those picky dog lovers, and I don't want my dogs in the park.
No, but I
Other
think
dogs.
I've gone by the one in Putnam,
No,
by Putnam, and that does, well, I mean,
It does.
again,
You're
you
right.
have to have people to do it, but see, like my dog doesn't have any companionship, so this is a
Okay.
place that they could go to be with other dogs, and I hate to have to go, I have to get in my car and drive instead of walk my dog to a place to play and then walk her back home.
No, I know, a lot of people just like them, but, yeah, I'm not.
But I mean, even if it's in a park area, but just a section that you can do it.
And we have
for
talked
kids.
about a section, behind the football field, actually, there's a piece of land that the town owns, and we have talked about putting a little park.
That's a Plainfield High School?
Nope, in Central Village, Ramsfield, like along back the river.
Oh,
So Peggy, you know what I'm
Back
talking about,
around
where we
there's
own
a,
the
there's a
piece of
beautiful
property.
river that people fish and everything down
But
there.
then again, that's still I gotta drive to get.
Oh, you have to drive, yeah.
I live right behind Old Hollow, so I'm in,
Oh, okay.
I'm in walking distance of Moosup Center, so that's what I'm looking for.
Okay,
Something
something,
in that area, but if I do need to drive, but, you know, if you're gonna walk your dog, it's a pain to put him in the car to bring him to a park.
Well, what about that area by Command that's across the street? That where the trucks used to pull up, there's a huge section there by the
I was
trees.
gonna say, I believe that's owned by Command.
I'm just wondering if that section would be something they'd be willing to sell off even, because that whole stretch by the river, people are fishing there. There's a whole area there that you could turn into like a dog park, fishing area, like, you know.
There's a whole thing behind my building, all the way down behind my building, where Clapper owns and all that stuff. There's a lot of that property.
Since some of the churches are not being used much longer, maybe give permission to park in the church parking lots, because that's, I mean, it's a parking, that's close to downtown, and walking distance.
Now, how about the area right across the street from this building and from the cleaners, where you have all those cars?
That's what I
Oh,
was talking
God.
about, that's building.
You know, at one time, that was a really great area, because I lived there. And I mean, if that was green, we'd have the picnics there, it was beautiful. Now you just see all these old cars sitting there. Oh, it's awful. It's a junkyard in the center of town. Hallelujah.
How about that parking lot across from Command? I think it must have been part of Command.
That is owned by Command.
But that would be a good spot to have people park to come to it. It's not very far, it's only a block.
Is it owned by the, or the guy that
It
bought
is
the?
owned by, well, bought by Command,
It's
so it's
still-
not owned by Command, but,
Maybe that.
so one of the things, just to touch base real quick about Command, because we're talking about it, there was supposed to be a representative here tonight from Command, but he was unable to make it. So one of the things I can share with you is I met with Command and a team of 6 of their attorneys, environmental specialists, and they have been awarded through the court a receiver. So right now, the duties of that receiver is they will be able to, there's a few things that they'll be able to do. They'll be able to actually go on the site. They will be able to repair the fence and secure the site. and they will be able to inventory what's on the site. They will not be able to clean it up, but they will be able to be involved with remediation. And once they inventory what is on the site, then they'll be able to sell some of that off. And any of the money from that will go into remediation. And they will be involved in that. It's just, they will not be cleaning it up. So they are already working on it inside the office. Now that spring is here, probably, he said, within a month or so, you're gonna see somebody over on the site.
That doesn't mean they're gonna be able to take the rest of those buildings down, does it?
At some point, Paul, and I don't wanna speak for them, but
That's what the
remediation
problem is.
means cleanup, so I don't know to what degree.
No, is that command site contaminated?
Yes.
Because I would say it'd be nice if they could donate it to the town, clean it up and make it into a nice park. I mean, that's, you go to other towns, the parks, like Kodak is huge in another town that I know, and all the baseball fields are, donated by Kodak. They keep them up, they pay for everything on them, and it's a yearly thing. So if you could find corporate sponsorships.
How about the parking lot we're talking about, which is across the street from the wreckage? It has a one, I don't know if that's owned by them or somebody else, but with all that near the old canal, with all that parking back there, why couldn't maybe somebody talk to them about maybe donating that to the town?
So right now, because of the situation, with the receivership and everything that's going on, Command they want the townspeople to know they are committed to clean up. They are committed to make sure that it is cleaned up. They are working with us, talking to us all the time. There's certain things that they can talk about right now, and there's certain things they can't, but they do want everybody to know they are committed to cleaning up Command. At some point, it will be cleaned up.
No time frame.
Sometimes it takes years.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure time-wise, do you want to just go through the screen and show the pictures, some of the pictures, and a couple ideas? Marion, I don't want to.
25 minutes of 8.
You still good, Jeff? So these are some of the pictures that the students took, and these are just as we were walking around, some of the ideas that we had, that we've talked about.
Things to look at that can make those small improvements that will start that visual change, that can then get more people on the bandwagon, basically, moving forward.
Kathy, do we have a grant writer?
That would be me.
Yes. I didn't know if there was someone designated to do that.
Yes.
Is there gonna be some kind of a newsletter to kind of let people know that's here tonight and the ones that didn't attend as to what's going on here, and there's some update periodically?
So I have created, March was my first Selectmen's newsletter. It will come out every month. So April newsletter I'm already working on. It's going to talk about Brownfield. It's going to talk about the solar project. So every month I will update anything that I've talked about in the past and add new to it. So the only thing with that newsletter right now, it's on our webpage. It is on our Facebook page. The town has a Facebook page. I bring it up to the senior center and I bring it to the Veterans Coffee House, and you can pick it up at the town hall. It's not mail because I'm trying to do it, but I'm trying not to spend any money to do it. So, but yes, and hopefully that newsletter is gonna grow. So.
I brought with me tonight some old pictures, and they're all on the table here, and they're all of downtown Moosup at various times. But I'd like everybody to notice, and most of them, the people out on the streets, and that's what really made the town what it was then and again, even the businesses that are there. So do stop and take a look at them tonight. They're what we were and will be again.
So thank you, everybody, for coming out. And again, this is the first of 4. We'll be going into each village and doing the same thing. And hopefully we'll be coming back into the villages with updates and actually starting projects at some point. But thank you, this is a fantastic turnout, I appreciate everybody.